Hello. This is the end of my week of Spanish learning. 咁咧今日就係我呢個禮拜上西班牙文堂嘅最後一日啦。It's only first day, I know. 咁但係即係星期四啫，我知嘅。Because tomorrow is a holiday. 咁因為聽日就放假嘅。Well, it's actually today is a national holiday. 其實今日咧先至係即係全國佢哋嘅公眾假期啦。The school is very nice. 咁但係學校好好啦。They arranged for us to still take class today. 咁佢就佢哋啲職員繼續今日翻工啦，我哋今日繼續上堂啦。And then they shift the holiday to tomorrow。咁佢哋就將聽日變咗個假期啦。咁 so that everybody could have a long weekend。咁所以大家就可以有長嘅週末啦。咁 especially for people who are travelling here, they might only do 1 week of class。咁尤其是咧有啲朋友可能嚟淨係做一個禮拜，即係淨係上一個禮拜堂嘅話咧 ，then if they like take 2 days off and then they still have to come back for a class tomorrow, it would be like less convenient for them。咁就會有啲戇居啦，即係如果佢哋今日要放一日假，然聽日再翻去上堂咁樣樣。So I feel that the arrangement of this school is really good。我覺得呢間學校佢哋啲安排係真係超正嘅咁。And also in the afternoon after class, they prepare like a traditional asado, which is kind of like a barbecue grill meat lunch for us。咁然後咧今日好好啦，放學落堂嘅時候咧，又大家坐埋一齊就有飯食啦，係啦，學校又請我哋食晏啦，咁就係佢哋呢個叫 asado 嘅東西，其實有少少好似 BBQ 咁樣樣咯，咁樣，咁就係牛肉啦、薯仔啦，同埋有沙律咁樣樣。So it's not really like a big plate, but like there is like beef and then there is a potato and also like a carrot kind of like salad。咁係啦，咁其實咧就大家有幾個同學真係食完都唔飽嘅。So a few of us were not really like didn't feel enough like afterwards。咁so few of them were going out to have something else, grab something else。咁有幾個同學就自己出去再揾嘢食啦。咁 I went to the grocery store， 咁我就去咗超市場啦。咁 So in the beginning I was a little bit afraid because one of my classmates told me like the largest one wasn't open today。咁因為有同學就同我講佢話喂冇開門喎咁樣樣，即係有間比較大啲嘅 because like there are like a couple of like grocery store near my place here, but they're not so good. Like the items that they carry, they're not so fresh or not so many choices for me。咁但係咧呢一邊我呢頭啲超市場賣啲嘢唔係咁靚啦，即係同埋冇乜選擇啦咁。So I thought like I would just try to buy grocery from this larger supermarket in the old town。咁我就諗住喺舊城區嗰度，即係間大啲嘅超市喺嗰度買啦。咁and then I'll just take a taxi back here。咁然後我就搭的士翻嚟咯，咁樣樣。So lucky me, it was open。咁啊好彩啦，佢有開啦，咁樣。So I bought like some frozen shrimps, I bought some ground beef, I bought some spinach, I bought an avocado, and so I can cook tonight and also like prepare meal in the coming days as well。咁我就買咗雪藏蝦啦、急凍蝦啦、呢個免治牛肉啦，跟住有菠菜啦，同埋買啲牛油果啦咁我就變咗呢幾日都可以煮飯咯咁樣。So it save a lot of money。咁慳好多錢啦 already。Well, I mean, although it's quite cheap to eat out as well here。咁其實出街食都平嘅咁 ，but I just really want to save more。咁但係我都仲係想再慳啲啦，做慳妹啦我哋而家咁。So let's get to the reading of today。咁我哋今日正式讀書啦。Read to Resist Day 209。當閱讀也是抗爭第209日。A Concise History of Hong Kong by John Mark Carroll。香港簡史，從殖民地至特別行政區，著者高馬可，譯者林立慧。Europeans in early Hong Kong fell into 5 main groups: colonial officials, merchants, professionals, those in supervisory or low-status jobs, and missionaries for groups such as the London Missionary Society. Working for firms such as the Hong Kong and Shanghai Bank provided a much better lifestyle than British clerks were used to back home. Many Portuguese from old families in Macau, often educated by Catholic missions there and in Hong Kong, worked for the colonial government and for British firms as clerks and interpreters. The European working class consisted mainly of policemen, government inspectors, supervisors and overseers, soldiers, naval and merchant sailors, mechanics, artisans and prostitutes, who came to Hong Kong mainly because the pay was better than in Britain. Although he preferred the Mediterranean feel of Portuguese Macau, George Chinnery, the best known of China trade painters, spent some time in Hong Kong. The early European population also included a small group of beachcombers, wanderers and outcasts, usually discharged seamen, deserters or criminals. Like the Chinese community, the European community in early Hong Kong was overwhelmingly male. Some European women worked as maids or nursemaids, while a few owned their own dress and millinery shops. 歐籍人，香港早期的歐籍人分為5類：殖民地官員、商人、專業人士、從事管工或低級職位者，以及為倫敦傳道會等團體服務的傳教士。為香港、上海匯豐銀行這類公司的工作，可以獲得優渥的生活，遠勝於在英國老家當文員。許多來自澳門古老家族的葡萄牙人效力香港政府和英國公司，擔當文員和翻譯。他們通常是在澳門和香港的天主教會受教育。勞工階層的歐籍人主要包括警察、政府督察、監工和領班、士兵、海軍和商船水手、機械技工、工匠和娼妓。他們來香港工作，主要是因為這裏的工資比英國高。繪畫中國外銷畫的畫家中最有名的錢勒利 George Chinnery 也在香港盤桓過一段日子。雖然他更喜歡葡萄牙治下的澳門的地中海風情。早期歐籍人也包括一小撮無業貧民、流浪漢和被放逐之人，通常是被解僱的水手、逃兵或罪犯。早期香港的歐籍人社群和華人一樣，大多數是男性，有些歐籍女人以僕人或保姆為業，很少數則自己開店售賣洋裝和女帽。Visitors to Hong Kong were frequently struck by the aloofness of the local Europeans, their lack of interest in Chinese culture, and their scorn and disdain for the local Chinese, and noted how they would beat Chinese workers with sticks and umbrellas. In 1877, a visiting Englishman complained that British military officers abused Chinese as if they were an inferior kind of animal to themselves. Europeans often treated Chinese rickshaw pullers very poorly and rudely, throwing their coins on the ground instead of handing them to the puller, and often even beating them. Yet there was never one single European or British attitude toward the Chinese of Hong Kong, any more than there was one type of European. Europeans in Hong Kong could be more accepting of wealthier Chinese, especially those who spoke English and engaged in philanthropic activities. As historian G.B. Endicott writes, the European population of early Hong Kong had its share of both greedy, self-seeking adventurers and men of high principle devoted to the public welfare. And although European women could be as racist as men, they often took a great interest in the problems facing the Chinese community. 到香港訪遊的人常得到一個印象，就是香港的歐籍人趾高氣揚，對中國文化不感興趣，又輕蔑和鄙視本地華人，還會用拐杖和雨傘打華裔工人。1877年，一名來訪的英國人抱怨英國軍官虐待華人，彷彿他們是極低等的動物。歐籍人對待華裔人力車夫的態度往往十分惡劣粗魯，不把車資交到車夫手上，以致丟在地上，還常常對他們拳打腳踢。不過，這類的歐籍人不是只有一種，所以歐籍人或英國人對待香港華人的態度也不止一種。富有的華人，尤其是懂說英語和熱心樂善者，較受香港歐籍人歡迎和接納。正如史家安德國所說，香港開埠初期的歐籍人當中，既有貪婪自利的冒險家， 又有情操高尚、致力促進公眾福祉的人。此外，雖然歐洲女人的種族主義可以不亞於男人，但他們往往比較關心華人所面對的問題。So this is the reading of today。咁啊，今日咧就讀到呢度啦。咁 ，So we started talking about the early Europeans，Europeans in early Hong Kong。咁我哋開始講即係早期香港嘅歐籍人啦。咁 ，we have to note that like it's not just British. Like when we talk about Europeans in early Hong Kong, although British is the colonizer。咁雖然係即係英國嘅殖民地啦，咁但係咧當時喺香港嘅歐籍人係唔止得英國人嘅，仲有其他即係歐洲人嘅咁樣樣啦。咁 ，so like talk about how racist these people are。咁我當然有提到就係呢啲歐洲人佢哋有幾咁嘅種族歧視啦 ，which we already know actually。咁其實我哋都知㗎啦，咁樣。Not just because of like historically we knew what they have done in Africa and Latin America。咁唔係淨係因為我哋睇歷史知道佢喺非洲啊、拉丁美洲做啲咩衰嘢啦咁。Even in Hong Kong there was a saying。咁就算喺香港我哋都成日聽到呢句説話，就係即係 in some kind of club in the place called the Hong Kong Club。喺香港會所咧，以前佢嘅門口咧 at the door they have a notice 就貼咗一個即係一個標語咁樣樣啦。And it said like no Chinese and dogs are allowed， 就係華人與狗不准入內啦咁樣樣。So this sort of confirm what was being said here in the passage。咁亦都即係同呢一個剛才讀到嘅嗰一段咧有相呼應啦。Is that like some like British traveller feel that these Europeans are treating Hong Kong people like some kind of like inferior animals, right？ 咁就係即係提到話，即係呢一啲曾經試過有即係英國來訪嘅人咧，係會覺得喺香港嘅歐籍人對香港嘅華人就好似當佢哋係一啲低等動物咁樣樣啦咁。So it's very hard to read about colonialism now。我覺得而家咧要去閱讀呢個殖民主義，對於我哋香港人嚟講 for us in Hong Kong 係好複雜嘅事嚟。It's a very complicated kind of like sentiment， 係即情感上面我諗係即係好複雜。We know very well what the Brits have done, all their worst things and the disdain and the sort of like harsh restrictions and the repression and everything。即係我哋知道晒英國佬當時對我哋做過所有衰嘢啦，所有嘅壓迫啦，所有嘅即係種族歧視嘅嘢啊，即係等級啊，諸如此類啊咁樣樣。But at the same time, like when the Chinese Communist Party at the moment keep on saying something called decolonization。咁但係當而家即係中共去用呢個所謂佢哋嘅去殖嘅呢一個咁樣嘅詞語，或者佢哋咁樣嘅所謂政策或者諗法嘅時候咧 ，it really stings and it for me at least and for my generation like people around me and my friends like we feel that like the saying of so-called decolonization by the Chinese community, by the Chinese Communist Party, is really like that they are trying to cut off our roots。對於我哋嚟講，其實咧，我諗係直情你所謂講去殖咧，對我哋嚟講，你好似其實係想斬咗我哋條根咁樣樣。Hong Kong people had a very difficult history, very strange kind of like weird upbringing in a sense that by the time that I was growing up, colonialism is not so much being discussed as a bad thing, even like from the perspective of my grandparents, who have like experienced the Second World War, the occupation by the Japanese, you know, and also you know the riot in the 60s and all that。即使譬如我阿爺、我阿嫲佢哋嗰一代咧，佢哋都喺即係我成長佢湊大我嘅時候咧，都唔會講好多關於殖民地政府嘅衰嘢或者英國佬嘅衰嘢嘅咁。 But I grew up listening so many bad things about the Chinese Communist Party。但係我由細到大咧，一路大嘅時候咧，我就聽好多中共嘅衰嘢。So in my mind, it was really like the Brits were wrong， 英國佬係唔啱嘅 ，but they have been changing and treating us better and better。佢哋有改變啦，佢哋對我哋越嚟越好啦。And its policy did help Hong Kong to become something right in the world. Like for such a small city that don't even have kind of like its own sort of space on the map. We were just a dot on the map。即係作為一個咁細嘅城市，我哋喺咁大嘅世界地圖，我哋一點嚟嘅啫，即係我哋只冇乜空間嘅，其實冇佔咗好大空間。And we were well known， 我哋係全世界都知道香港係一個咩地方。And this happened during the colonial periods。咁而呢樣嘢係喺殖民地時期嘅時候發生㗎嘛，即係香港嘅成就，香港作為一個城市嘅成就。So for me，this is something that is like you just kind of like when you put that into perspective, so you have to sort of compare, like the pros and cons, and it seemed like the pros is like way much more than the cons。咁好似就係即係好處會係啦，利多於弊咁咯，係啦咁樣。Then of course, like the return, so-called the return or the handover of the sovereignty to China has always been controversial and always been really wrong. But then now I would understand because like historically the Brits would never wanted to spend so much like too much money in Hong Kong。咁但係而家可能即係睇到簡史裏面提到英國佬佢哋一直以嚟佢哋即係攞咗香港之後，其實佢哋都係唔想使好多錢喺香港，咁所以可能當時佢哋即係所謂還翻或者即係呢個主權移交去俾中國大陸嘅時候，其實佢哋嗰個諗法可能就係佢哋想慳錢，即係 and also at the time。It was really like when they started talking about this in the 80s, and then we all know what happened in the 70s. It's like all these new independent nations from the Latin Americas, like all became, like the 60s and 70s, they all became independent. They were all really upcoming, and also in the 70s, Portugal became a democracy, they overthrow the fascist government。咁即係我諗其實係即係都睇翻嗰個即係當時譬如80年代開始傾呢個主權移交咁樣啦，咁60、70年代發生咩事就係即係一堆拉丁美洲嘅國家即係開始宣布獨立啦，全部即係都唔再係殖民地啦咁樣，然後70年代嘅時候就係葡萄牙又即係推翻咗佢哋嘅法西斯政府，然後即係變成一個民主國家啦咁樣。So it's sort of like it doesn't look good on the Brits if they keep Hong Kong as a colony。咁所以其實係即係喺嗰個年代嗰個氛圍咁樣發展落嚟嘅時候咧，英國佬仲要即係攬住香港做殖民地，其實就係即係佢哋係好樣衰嘅咁樣樣。So I guess like that's also like the bigger picture why。They felt they have to, like do something about Hong Kong。咁所以可能因為咁就要即係係啦，要做翻啲嘢啦咁樣。And then of course there's the ambition of the China at the time to want to be open to the world and to, like sort of beginning to think about increasing their national income and taking advantage of the whole world rather than just like closing in their close circle。咁亦都係即係當時就係即係開放改革嘅呢個政策，即係鄧小平嗰個野心對於即係個世界，即係中國開始要開出去個世界度啦，要揾錢翻嚟啦，咁樣即係去賺啲鬼佬嘅錢啦咁。So they would be very happy to take Hong Kong because at the time Hong Kong was really doing so well in Asia and in a lot of areas and especially like economically developing and in the financial market that China would really need Hong Kong as a stepping stone。咁而即係佢當時即係如果攞到香港就係一個好好嘅踏腳石啦。咁香港當時就係超級發達繁榮啦，同埋即係各方面其實都係做得非常之好啦。經濟上面嘅發展啊，尤其是即係嗰個嘅財經上面啊，我哋嗰個嘅即係stock market 啊咁樣樣。So unfortunately 咁係好不幸啦嚇。Everything is a cycle, right？ 咁啊，所有嘢都係一個循環嚟嘅。So if you go high, then you have to come down low again, and then you go high again. So right now we are at the low。咁我哋而家就係啦，即係世界一個循環啦，有高有低，然後又會低咗翻上高啦咁即係而家就係我哋嘅低啦咁。So we can only hope that this is the lowest point already。咁我哋只能夠就寄望呢個已經係我哋即係低處最低啦嚇，即係唔好低處未算低啦咁樣樣。Albeit like in the last 3 years we're just seeing like the newest low every day。咁但係都好似每日都見到仲係低處未算低嘅咁樣。So yeah and。During the Spanish class these days， 咁其實呢兩個禮拜上西班牙文堂咧，there were quite a few times because we were like practicing conversation in Spanish, and then there will be some kind of themes about culture, about like today is about history。咁好多時候我哋即係上堂即係去做繪畫練習嘅時候咧，咁我哋會傾偈好多唔同嘅主題啦，可能會講文化嘅主題啊，可能會講即係呢個歷史嘅主題。今日講歷史啦咁 ，so then。I would keep on talking about Hong Kong, like 咁我不停會講香港嘅嘢啦咁樣樣。And just today we're talking about like the economic kind of like the main economic source of income of your country, right？ 咁啊今日即係其實其中一條問題就係喺你嘅國家裏面，即係最主要嗰個嘅經濟嗰個收入嘅來源係乜嘢？即係最發達係呢樣嘢咧咁樣樣。And so I'm talking about like for Hong Kong maybe it's like the stock market and also like tourism。咁可能即係對於香港嚟講，即係近呢20年係嘛？即係我諗可能20-30年都係即係已經係發展到就係旅遊業好緊要啦。另外就當然就係都係繼續我哋嗰個財經呢個個股市嗰樣嘢啦咁樣樣。And then I talk about like before that, like maybe around like the 60s and 70s, then 60s to the 80s would be like textile industry, right? Textile and clothing, that sort of thing, and also like plastic manufacturing and manufacturing. Also like 咁我哋即係可能講緊即係再之前即係就會係可能50-60年代至到80年代中期初期比較就係製衣業啦，同埋即係塑膠啦，咁仲有即係鐘錶啦咁樣樣。And then like the classmate from Holland was saying like, oh, but I thought like clothing is from China because like they're made in China, right? So you're still like textile and clothing is still your main like kind of economic activities. And then I told him immediately Hong Kong is not China。咁咧我咧荷蘭呢個同學就即刻講，佢話喂唔係喎，你啲買衫成日都 made in China 㗎啦，咁即係你哋而家都仲係即係主要經濟活動都係製衣㗎咁樣。咁我即刻就同佢講香港唔係中國咁樣啦。And then so we started off about talking about like the two systems, like the so yeah and。Despite my poor Spanish, but I'm also learning a lot of vocabularies and way to talk about Hong Kong as well。咁雖然我而家即係仲係好低級嘅西班牙文啦，但係已經學緊好多即係點樣去講香港啊、政治啊、香港嘅情況嘅生字啊，同埋即係一啲動詞啊咁樣樣咯咁。So I'm very motivated to learn better， 咁所以我就非常之有動力咧去學得好啲啦咁。So anyway, this is it for today。咁今日咧就完啦，咁我哋咧就聽日再見，See you again tomorrow，拜拜。